On me, brother.
Sounds good, man.
All right.
There's always like this weird, I don't know if we're on or not on or
Well, it's less weird for you. You could be lying to me this whole time and be telling me that there's
we're
6,000
actually
people watching, and I'm like hyped about
there
so many
are
people, and there could be zero.
so much more than 6,000 people watching. So all
Wonderful.
right, we're live. Here we go. It's Monday. It's Martin Luther King Day. It's January the 17th. So in honor of Martin Luther King wanting change for the world, we also want change for the world. We just want change for people who are struggling with substance abuse. So you're in the right spot if that's what you're after. It's Parents Helping Parents Live. Thank you for joining us. Let me kind of go over a few things, and then I'll introduce our wonderful speaker tonight, and we will turn it over to him. So if you are watching for the first time, or maybe you're not super familiar with Parents Helping Parents because you're seeing this on somebody else's newsfeed, Parents Helping Parents is a nonprofit Oklahoma-based organization with the mission of helping parents who have a child any age that's struggling with drug and alcohol issues find resources, get education, and share our experiences. So that's what we do. We host support groups all across Oklahoma where parents get together with parents who have been down that road before, who have learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And we talk and we offer support and we connect them with resources in their area, and we try to provide some education related to addiction and treatment and how to find all those things. And nothing that we do as an organization is ever considered professional counseling, professional advice, legal advice, medical advice. We think all of those things are wonderful, and we want to help connect you to places that can do those, but we are just here to share our experiences, to offer support and education. So if you want to find out more about Parents Helping Parents, there's a couple ways you can do that. Follow us on Facebook at Parents Helping Parents Inc., or you can visit us on the web, www.parentshelpingparents.info. That's how you can stay up to date on upcoming events, chapters that might be in your area, which I really want to encourage people to do. This live stream is great. We're glad that we're able to connect with people who might be in rural Oklahoma or rural places in other states and can't find support locally. But if you're in an area where we host a chapter, there is nothing better than being in a room full of people that can offer you support, that can offer you hugs, that can actually share in that experience face to face. So be sure to check out where our groups are so that you can stay connected. The other thing I would like everybody to do real quick is reach down and click the share button if you're watching live on Facebook. People ask all the time, what's the number one thing we can do to help support the organization? Well, the number one thing you can do to help support any great organization or any great business is to share their content. It's free, doesn't cost you a dime to do that, and it exponentially increases the reach of the message. I guarantee it, even if you've got 500 friends on Facebook, which I think most everybody has more than that. I'm not knocking the number of your friends list. Don't take that personally if you only have 399, right? But no matter how many people you have on your friends list, if you share this video, somebody on that list either has somebody in their family that's struggling with addiction or substance use, or knows somebody that's struggling with addiction and substance use. So sharing videos like this and hearing stories like Bryce's can actually help change a life, and you might not even know that because it gets shared and it gets shared, and all of a sudden somebody gets sober and gets into recovery, and you had a part in that just because you clicked share. So make sure you share the content, click like, all that good stuff. I'm really excited. Our speaker tonight is a good buddy of mine here in Oklahoma, who's going to be talking about his story and his family story. So I'm going to shut my mug because I don't have anything else really powerful to say. And I'm going to turn this thing over to Bryce so that he can share some stuff with us. Bryce, it's all you, man.
Yes, sir. My name is Bryce Jones, and I am an alcoholic. Thank you, Derek, for having me to speak tonight. It's definitely an honor. Derek is a friend of mine. When I finished rehab a little over 3 years ago, I got out and went to see Derek for counseling one time when I moved into sober living. Then I got a job that didn't permit me to go see him, and I just didn't like him. And so I really wanted to, go a different direction. But if you like the guy, it's good that you're here tonight. No, I love him. No, thanks for anybody who's listening. I don't know what stories or what brought you in here with your experiences with alcoholism and addiction. My parents dealt with me for about a decade, and I'll get into that and some of the experience I had with with what it took for me to get sober and the steps that they took on their end of the deal that helped me to get sober. But if I could wrap this all up in 2 seconds, it would be go to Al-Anon if you're not there, or stay here. Start helping each other and stop helping people like me while we're drinking and using. But anyways, I will give my phone number, or Derek can post my phone number after this. Anytime if you want to share my contact information on an individual basis to loved ones or family who are dealing with alcoholism, I am more than happy to take their call. I know an army of people across the nation really who will drop what they're doing and go visit and see anybody on what we call a 12-step call and carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous and or whatever it is their affliction may be. But you can get the phone number after, because if I suck right now and you don't identify with what I'm about to say, then you might not want the phone number. That's up to you. So like I said, I'm Bryce Jones. I'm an alcoholic by the grace of God and my understanding, actions in Alcoholics Anonymous, and strong sponsorship. I have been sober since October 1st, 2018. Let's see. I'm from Shawnee. I'll just get right into the guts, man. I'm told to tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. I started when I was 14. I was just ready to, man, I had a great past. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a local artist, painted paintings, like a fantastic childhood. I can't blame any of my afflictions or issues on my surroundings. And the truth of the matter is, it's what makes an alcoholic is not their upbringing or the trauma or lack of trauma that they had as a child. What makes an alcoholic is someone who, when they put a mind-altering substance in their body of any kind, all bets are off on when they're going to stop, But what makes me an alcoholic is not just the fact that when I like to drink, I drink way too much. And when I like to use narcotics, I like to use way too much. It's that I had a lot of friends in college who used plenty and drank plenty. And then, they started messing up a little bit. And they're like, okay, I got to get my grades together. So I'm going to stop that stuff for a while, right? And all my friends started to graduate and went on to have families and houses. And I did graduate, but that's by the grace of something bigger than me. But we don't have to get into that. I could never put it down. And the difference that made me an alcoholic is that I know for a fact that I cannot go drink or use ever again if I want to have any quality of life or even live. And that knowing that is still not enough for me to stay sober, period. And that's what makes an alcoholic and what makes an addict is that we're so maladjusted to life. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'll refer to, that's how I found my solution. Refers to as a spiritual malady. And I was not a very spiritual being at the time when I came off the streets living in Colorado in my car. God was definitely an afterthought, but we'll get into that. When I was 14, I went into high school like ready to guns a-blazing, ready to drink and ready to try whatever it was. Like a month now, maybe a few weeks in, I drank for the first time, and we were like, me and 3 friends were around a campfire camping, and we had like 12 beers, 3 apiece. We all drank 3, and I asked them maybe a dozen times throughout the night, like, hey, let's go get some more of that beer. So like, I've never been drunk before now. I've never been or intoxicated of any kind. And instantly I'm like craving this. I'm like, this is the business. And these other guys 2 of them were co-valedictorians. They're twins. They like won state in tennis. This other guy's this track star at this high school. And I'm just a freshman, and like, I'm just ready to tear some stuff up, and they didn't realize, and it's not on their fault. I was going to find alcohol one way or another, but they didn't realize who they were dealing with. So a week later, I tried hydrocodone for the first time. It's a pain medicine. And I would have a love affair with pain meds for the next decade, as well as many other things. Quickly in high school, even before I was 15, I was already dating this gal whose mom had recovered or survived cancer and had copious amounts of the exact pills that I liked to take. And so I didn't even like her. That's the sad part. But like at the time, I had one objective in mind, and that was to get as many of these pills as possible. And that's just my story, man. I didn't even know what addiction meant. So my family found out about some of this stuff because I was taking these pills on youth trips, and I was way too, negligent, or I don't know if that's the. Anyways, I was just very careless, and got caught on a church trip with some of those things, but nothing ever seemed like a big consequence to me. It wasn't a big deal. And parents found out. They sent me to a place called Gateway in Shawnee, Oklahoma, as an outpatient program. And I went and did some like counseling, and I just thought I was way too smart for any of it. And I was like, oh, I love what you guys do. I'm so thankful that this exists so that people who do need help can come see you. But I appreciate your time, but I'll be seeing you later. I didn't say I'll be seeing you later. I said I'll see you. And I did see them later. I actually went back to that program many years later. Anyways, that's here to there. Repeat offender, you know what I mean? But I got further into high school, and I didn't plan on any of these things ever happening. I just didn't. I had one objective in mind, and that was to not feel how I felt. And like I said earlier, like I'm maladjusted to life. The big book says these three words about my constant state of mind is restless, irritable, and discontent. And I am all three of those things unless I have alcohol or a mind-altering substance in my body. And I'm all three of those things now if I don't have a spiritual program into place. Anybody who's broken enough to reach out for help doesn't have to see it that it's a spiritual program that they need. They just have to be willing to extend the hand, and there's people who will walk them through the process. And that's what I'm here to deliver tonight, is just another resource to you guys. So if you're here tonight, you're in the right place, except for Derek. I still question your judgment in who you're talking to. But let's see. By the end of high school, I'm selling drugs to afford everything. I'm the captain on my tennis team as a senior by some fluke, and was not an example of leadership by any reach of the word. I got caught drinking on a tennis tournament using a fake ID. They drug tested the team the very next week, and I was suspended that whole week. My coach said, "Hey, I know that for sure that you are not only drinking, that you are using other substances. We have a drug test in 1 week, and while you're suspended, get your act together. This is the date and time of that test. Please pass this test so we can have you finish the season." And I said, okay. I did care about tennis at the time, and every single day I woke up with the full intention to not drink or use that day. And every single day, by no later than noon, tomorrow was a lot better day to get sober. And so I ended up failing that drug test. I got kicked off the team. I got caught by my parents that I was drug dealing, somehow not by the law. I guess I don't ever plan on running for president. I think that I can public speak decently well. And I think you just have a point in your life where I do stand-up comedy. And like at some point in your life, you just cross the line when you're recorded saying something, and you being president is now out the window. So this is out in public. It's fine. It's on YouTube. It's whatever. So I'm just throwing in the white flag, not going to be running for Congress anytime soon. But what I don't even know where I was. But somehow I ended up finishing high school. I ended up having to take summer school to get an English credit that I was in college English and then missed all the classes. Not surprisingly, had to make that up. But my parents said they were willing to pay for my college if I was willing to stay home for a year and take drug tests and be clean and show that I could prove myself that I'm going to be able to be worth investing in, right? And I'm a manipulative person. I said, no, absolutely, I cannot stay home. If you want me to stay sober, I got to get out of Shawnee. And I truly believe that. I really did believe that if I changed my geographical location, that it would be different. Turns out that makes zero difference, because wherever I go, there I am. But they ended up letting me go to school where they went to school, which was Abilene Christian in Texas. I went there and was not a Christian when I arrived and was not when I left. I was not, just did not have a spiritual connection with anything whatsoever. I was just doing whatever I wanted to do or whatever I felt that I had to do to survive another day, to feel okay. At the time, thank goodness I was surrounded by a lot of loving people who loved me during the years that I couldn't love myself. My ego loved myself, but I certainly didn't. Behind all of the big talk and big show was just a very afraid, very scared young man who didn't know how to grow up. And so I went to college and I planned on getting great grades. I did for a while. My GPA line from freshman year to senior year is a perfectly steady downslope. It is what it is. But I showed up like with a firm resolution that I was not going to be partying the way I was in high school. I was not going to be using the way I was in high school. I'll drink a little, of course, because that doesn't count because I like drugs, alcohol, not a problem for me. I'm saying that mockingly because it is. If you have any children who drugs brought them to their knees, if they try to say, well, alcohol's not my problem, they're absolutely incorrect. And as long as they're drinking, they're going to keep effing their lives up. There's no in between. But at least in my experience, if you're the 1 in a million person that I haven't seen, power to you. Trust me, if I could drink successfully and use successfully, would not be sitting here tonight, would not be sober, would absolutely be drinking, and I hate to say that, but it's the truth. But thankfully I got surrounded by the right people that showed me that if I wanted any quality of life at all, I had to surrender everything. So let's see, freshman in college, by the end of the first semester, I'm already pawning my Xbox, pawning my headphones, pawning whatever I could to get more money for pain pills. Alcohol was always free in college. You could always find somebody who had alcohol and go party with them. But pain pills is what I had a really bad affliction with at the time. Sophomore year, I decided to join a fraternity. Then I found out later in that semester that it was very profitable to be a distributor amongst the fraternities. And so I'm trying to say that in a way that sounds professional. I could even put it on my resume, plant distributor at the time. No, I just pursued that. I did everything I could to come up with enough money to afford every single day's worth of habits with the pain pills I had. I think at some point it was like $200 a day that I was putting in my nose with Oxycontin, among many other things. But still, school was important enough to me that I was willing to, I was chock full of substances and still just wanted to pass school more than anything. And so I kept doing that. And I ended up finishing college, took an extra semester, not surprisingly at all. Got a job in Oklahoma City after I had had an internship with a financial company, and then ended up selling insurance for a few years, or trying, I should say. Walked around in a suit and tie thinking I was really something important. And the entire time was just so deep in the pits of addiction. And I don't have to get into the war stories of everything, but it got pretty bad, and with the pain pills. And then I had made more money than I never made in a couple months from some large sales. And I'm not bragging about that money. I spent every dime of it very quickly. When you're a little boy, you think that a lot of money, or money seems like a lot, and it's not. Then right now I'm engaged to be married this next year, and now we're looking at buying a house. And I wouldn't have had the same mindset at the time if I would have known what life's really like. But my tolerance became way too high to pills that I was buying from people for $30 a piece, of which I was having to take 10 of to survive a day. And feel how I needed to feel. Spent all the money I made, and my tolerance was way too high. And the only other option that I saw, instead of getting sober, oh my goodness. But anyways, we don't have, and I decided I'm gonna have to, my alcoholism takes me to some dark places, and those include needles for me. I actually seeked out intravenous usage. I started using heroin. And no one encouraged me to do that. No one of my friends was like, or of my using friends, you can't really call them friends. None of my using acquaintances were like, hey, you need to do this, man. I drove the train the whole way down ever since I started. And yeah, I just have nobody else to blame. And so I quickly lost everything. I could not pay for my rent. It fell apart pretty quickly, and I was not able to, like, I remember trying to go sell insurance. I'm like falling asleep in front of people. If you've had any kids that are like on pay, it was so embarrassing. But I've nodded off in front of people while trying to talk to them about their retirement plans. It is what it is. They didn't buy insurance from me. So I reached out to my parents because I'm a liar. I'm a liar big time, but when I'm not sober, but I will tell the truth when it's convenient for me and when it's going to be helpful to me. And I called my parents, and I'm just like pathetic, man. I'm like, Mommy, Daddy, please. I mean, I have to put a Y on the end of both those because that's where I was at, just a little kid, because they'd always bailed me out, always giving me allowance during college. Even after college, were giving me money towards my rent every month. And just always helping me. So like I always knew I could fall back on something, right? And I called them, and I finally told them the truth, because I wasn't going to tell anybody the truth, well, as long as I had money, to make it another day. So I reached out to them and said, hey, I can't do this anymore. This is where I'm at in life. They hadn't seen me in a while. I looked terrible. And so I reached out and I said, can you guys help me? And by that I meant, can I move back home and just kick it at y'all's place for a while? And so a while turned into 9 months. I went home on the agreement that I would go to an outpatient program and take this medicine called Suboxone, which those of you who don't know, Suboxone is essentially a medicine you take for people who are coming off of opiates, but it's also an opiate and you still get effed up on it. So it's like taking opiates instead of opiates. It's like if you for real. And it's like if you drink, well, I guess it's like if you're coming off liquor and you're like, well, I'm just going to drink beer instead. I mean, beer can get you drunk if you've had enough of them. It does. I mean, anyways, that's just my experience. I've seen people come off the streets with that drug, with the Suboxone treatment, and put some of their life back together. So I'm not here to knock that as it's a definitely an easier route than being on the street on harder things. But in my experience, it still wasn't enough to keep me sober for long term. So because I never did any work on myself, I just came home and started taking that, like putting a Band-Aid on it, but did no healing whatsoever. So I stayed in their basement, literally, like the stereotypical picture. I lived in their basement and played video games all day, every day for 9 months. And I thought I was sober. I was going to like NA meetings. It was like still like putting my ADD medicine in my nose, and like drinking, and for real was going to these NA meetings like I've got 90 days sober, like because I wasn't doing my favorite drug, so yay me, right? And I about 6 months in to me living there though, and I keep telling my parents I'm going to get a job. They keep hounding me. You got to get a job. You got to do something. And I keep saying I'm going to and not doing it. 6 months in, they started going to what's called Al-Anon. I would imagine that all of you are familiar with that, but for those of you who are not, Al-Anon is a 12-step program designed for people who are family members of alcoholics, family members of addicts, who can find a solution to understanding how to handle dealing with an alcoholic and an addict appropriately, and more so handling themselves than anything. So they started going to Al-Anon, and it was serious business, man. Like within a month, they sat me down for my birthday at Red Lobster, and they said, hey, here's your move out date. We love you, but you got to go. We found out in Al-Anon that we're not actually helping you by helping you. So you've got to go immediately. And I was like, hold on, this Al-Anon business sounds a little ridiculous, guys. But and thank God they did. And my mom later told me once I got sober, she said, when we made the decision to kick you out of the house on your own when you had nothing, we had to accept the fact that you might die out there while you're not sober, but that there was no way you were going to ever get better if we kept you here. And so, they're like, we can't watch you slowly die in our house doing absolutely nothing, because that's no way to live. If you've got some kids sitting at the house, I suggest you kick them out at some point, appropriately, right? But that's got to be a tough thing. Now I've got some soon to be stepkids, and we've had to We've had to set hard boundaries with one who's 18. Um, that has dealt with some heavy, well, I say heavy, it's just dealing with the beginnings of some strong, we don't know yet, but they were not following the sober household rules that we live by. And, we can only give so many chances. We finally had to set a hard boundary, and that was tough. But I'll tell you what, since she has left, she has all of a sudden reached out for some help in different ways from us and has sought counsel. And you know what? She wasn't going to do any of those things if we would have let her stay at the house. So that's besides the point. My parents told me to leave, and I moved to Colorado, and with dreams, big dreams of becoming an Uber. Nothing wrong with Uber, but I mean, that was like the end all. I was like, I'm going to go be an Uber the rest of my life. You just drive around and, and so within a week, I was shooting up again, because left to my own devices, I mean, I have no self-control, and I'm way too afraid of what life really is that I can't handle it. And so immediately I'm doing that again. And at this point, I didn't last, I think, another 5 months. The last 2 months of that, I was living in my car. I remember Googling on my phone, best parking lots to sleep in, to like not be like bothered. And it was Walmart. And I remember thinking that nobody else who's lived in their cars ever thought to do this. This is pretty thought out. It's pretty genius, if I do say so myself. So I'm living in Walmart parking lots. And the craziest thing about all of this is that I was entirely okay with that. I was entirely okay with the fact that I was living in a Walmart parking lot, as long as I had enough to come up with another fix. It just didn't matter. And it was weird. One night I was with a good friend of mine who was actually helping to supply my my opiates and heroin, actually. And I asked him, for some reason, something told me to ask him. I said, hey, do you think I can like get my life together if I, just cold turkey this deal, maybe get back on the Suboxone, and just kind of put it back together, without going to rehab? Like, do you think I could take some steps? And he just starts dying laughing. Now, mind you, this is my drug dealer, and I'm his number one customer. And he says, F no, dude, you got to go to rehab if you ever want to have a chance at life. Like, laughing. And I'm like, how dare you, but to hear it from him, it's like the big book talks about frothy emotional appeal does not suffice for an alcoholic. And what that means is that your love for the person who is struggling with alcoholism or addiction, no matter how much you express it to them, goes in what it doesn't matter. You cannot love someone into being sober. You cannot love someone enough into staying sober and putting their life together. It just doesn't matter. But it takes a message of depth and weight from someone who has been through it themselves for someone like myself to hear it. Now, I don't know that message had a lot of depth, but it definitely had weight coming from, for some reason, it just hit me, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get help. If he says it, then it's got to be true. The guy that I'm literally helping to pay his rent is telling me that I should probably go to rehab. You might, there's your sign, I guess. But so I text my parents this long message, and I say, hey guys, I know it's been a while since we've talked. I'm right back where I was. And I know before I was never willing to go to inpatient rehab. But is there any way you could help me find a place? I was 25 at the time, so fortunately was still on their insurance. You know what? And they were taught in Al-Anon that the only time that they help is if it's about me getting sober. They don't help with anything else. They don't give me money. They like, oh, I just got to buy this one thing and then I can get home again, like, whatever. Like, they give me nothing unless I reach out and I'm like, hey, I want to get sober. Could you maybe help point me in the right direction? And they said, yeah. very emotionally, of course. And, I don't see the turmoil I'm causing on them the whole time. I think, well, I'm not in front of their face, so I'm not hurting anybody, but far from the truth. And so they helped find a rehab that's in Pink, Oklahoma, here. Well, and I live in Norman, so it's pretty much right down the street. But I went there, and I'll tell you what, my attitude, I did not know anything about sobriety yet. I did not know that I knew that I had to stay sober, but I still didn't know that drinking wasn't considered sober. I didn't know anything. Like I texted my buddies before going in and said, "Hey guys, going into treatment right now. Can't wait to get out and get a cold beer with you guys." I mean, like that was where my thinking was, right? Like I needed to be physically separated for long enough from drugs and alcohol that I could have any sort of wit about me to take someone else's suggestions over mine. So I went to treatment, and I mean, this is just all by the grace of God that any of this stuff clicked for me and I got plugged in with the right people. But I went for 90 days, and I just slowly but surely started doing what I was told. My counselor told me, like, dude, you are so full of shit. Everything you say, you try to make everybody laugh, but you got nothing to say. Nothing you say is about anything. You're just BS. And I was like, I took it okay. I was like, you're right, man. You're absolutely right. I was broken. I was broken. I was a loser. And thank goodness I knew that. And I wouldn't have found that bottom if it weren't for my parents listening to other people and taking the hard pill to swallow. Well, they don't take pills, but um, I would have taken it, but of kicking me out and having to send me on my way to go hit an appropriate rock bottom to be willing to take suggestions, right? Because why would I, living in my parents' basement, eating free food, playing video games, doing that? Why in the world would I ever decide, like a light bulb goes off, that I'm just going to change now? That I'm just going to go put my life together? Zero chance. I will milk every one of you parents who lets me stay at your house until you either kick me out or one of you dies. I mean, that is for real. And so will anybody who's like me. And they may not see that. They might not think that way. I'm not saying that your children are bad people because of this. If you do have children in that situation, but I'm saying that they don't know any better, and they will continue living in that circle on that merry-go-round, and you will continue witnessing it for as long as you're not willing to take some action. And that's just a sad truth. None of you, if you do not feel like you're an incapable parent or a bad parent in any way, if your kid has gone down these roads, there is just no one was born like your kid was born and they just said, here's this pamphlet to life for the shit show that's about to unfold, and you're just going to know how to handle all this. No one knows how to handle this stuff. I mean, oh my goodness. And how would you? Because we lead with love, man. I love these kids that I have now. I love them so much. Goodness gracious, it is going to be hard for me to practice what I preach if, God forbid, things get worse for any of them, or any of them choose, make some poor decisions like I did. It's going to be real hard, and I will end up having to sit down in one of these groups. But for now, I'm still a selfish alcoholic who thinks about myself a lot. I belong in the rooms of AA. Maybe I'll belong here one day. I don't know. But but like I said, back to rehab, I was just broken enough to be able to take directions and find some humility. And I ended up going to sober living at following treatment, because I was told to. I was told to go to sober living and live there until you get a year of sobriety at least. I was told to get a sponsor. I was told to go to meetings, and all of these things I still did not know why. Like, I didn't understand and know for sure that any of it was going to work, because I looked at, the history of my life, and everything I put my hands on, it never ended up working. I always manipulated it to the ground. And so, I just wasn't sure, but the record shows that it doesn't matter what my intentions are. It matters what my actions are. And this, on the reverse end of that, while I lived at my parents' house and while I was using, every single day, I had the fullest intentions of being a good person that day. I wanted so badly to be the son that my parents deserved. I wanted so badly to stay sober and be someone that they were proud of. But I, by myself, the keyword I, could not do that. period. And no human power could have. And so I just started taking suggestions. Now I got plugged into an AA group here in Norman, and these people, they get to the meeting 30 minutes early. They shake everybody's hands. If there's a newcomer, that person gets handshakes and gets phone numbers and gets smiles and gets welcomed. And the coffee's made early. The meeting's set up. It starts on time. We stay after, we fellowship, we go out to eat after, we do life together. I've been to some Alcoholics Anonymous groups that I didn't have the same experiences. I'm not whatever it takes for someone to stay sober, but I've been in places where everyone the whole hour just complains and talks about the problems in their life and then leaves. And that's not the kind of thing that attracts me. But I've been fortunate enough to get connected with some different groups of Alcoholics Anonymous. The big book calls them pockets of enthusiasm that you can find within the rooms of recovery. And, there's a bunch of people that, what we do is we drive around to treatment centers. We carry the message. We take AA meetings to treatment centers. We show up. We say yes when people ask us for help. Like when Derek asked me to speak, I say yes. I check my calendar, and if it's open, it's a yes. It's not a question. It doesn't matter if it's inconvenient. Doesn't matter if I'd rather be sleeping. Doesn't make it. I would love to be watching Yellowstone right now. Just bought season 4, halfway through. John Dutton, man, but we don't have to get into that. I got sidetracked there. I love that show. I got plugged into a group of people that like had their lives together, man. Like what they had was attractive to me and very intimidating at the same time. Like, we wear suits and ties to meetings when people speak. Like, for example, like me as the speaker, if this was an AA meeting right now, all of these people would show up in suits and ties. I mean, this is like people who are alcoholics, and the principle, people don't have to wear that stuff to stay sober. That's not the point. But it's where I got plugged in. They said, like, we respect the speaker, and we want to exemplify somebody worth striving to be like. Because when someone walks in the room broken and beaten by alcoholism, and you see something that's like someone smiling and happy to be there, but meanwhile sharing that they have the same sentiments and story that you have, that's something that works. That's something what I meant earlier when I said a message of depth and weight. And bless your hearts as the family who has to deal with them, but no matter how much you love them, you cannot change us. We have to do it for ourselves. And so I just started working the steps, the 12 steps of AA, to the best of my ability, and started taking a sponsor's direction. And the rest has just worked out fantastically better than I could have ever imagined. I don't have to get all into that, but I went from sober living to the treatment center I went to ended up offering me a job to do their admissions, and went from doing their admissions coordinating to directing the marketing and admissions to getting offered a position to move to New Jersey to run a large call center for their nationwide facilities. I ended up staying in Oklahoma. Thank goodness. I love my people here, but I'm not bragging about any of that stuff, because the truth is none of that stuff is a result of what I have to bring to the table. It's a result of the actions that were taught to me because I was so broken and that I was willing to listen to somebody else who knew better than I did. And what I say about the spiritual malady is, like, I am my problem. When I get to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I think that alcohol is my problem. But the only step of all the 12 steps that's about alcohol or about substances is step 1. The remaining 11 steps are about getting myself right with something bigger than myself and getting honest. And so, now I spend my time is spent. I sponsor a ton of guys. I say a ton. I sponsor a good handful of guys, and they all have call times every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. And I don't usually answer their call if they call a minute before or after, because we're people who never were able to keep commitments before now. And I was told by my sponsor when I got one, he's like, you call me at 6:30 p.m. and you don't call me a minute after or before, otherwise I'm not going to answer. And if you want this deal, then you'll be willing to do that. Because the truth of the matter was, if my drug dealer had told me, you call me at 6:30 p.m. And sing me a song, I would have called at 6:30 p.m. with like a full song. I don't know. I'm just saying I was willing to do anything it took to use drugs and alcohol, and therefore I have to remain willing to do whatever I can to stay sober. And that means helping other guys. And so I take a lot of phone calls. I make a lot of phone calls. I work with my sponsor. I show up to my meetings early. I shake hands like I know to do, the same way I did when I first came in the rooms. And I live life as much as I can about other people aside from myself. But I wake up every morning. Thinking about my own life, and I quickly try to do something outside of myself. I pray on my knees every morning, and I read something spiritual. I've been reading Emmett Fox's Sermon on the Mount. It's a nice book, but I read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I do a meditation, and I just try to every single morning get myself out of the way long enough so that the God that I pursue to have a relationship with can start to direct my thinking and direct my day. Because when I'm out of the way, then the rest of it starts to work out. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know that I would have ever gotten here if it weren't for my parents starting with a support group and starting with what they did, Al-Anon, and telling me to leave. If they wouldn't have taken that leap of faith where my mom had to tell me later, I had to know that you could die if I let you go, but that there was no other way you were going to get to live if I didn't. And that is powerful. And so I just encourage you to stay around and keep listening to the stories of other parents who have seen their lives get better, because to my understanding, it's not you don't come in here to learn the solution to fixing an alcoholic and fixing an addict. It's learning the ability to accept what they do, not put that on yourself, and not enable them to continue living the way that they live. Because as long as I'm enabled, I mean, I would like to believe that it's not true, but I think I'd still be in their basement right now. 3.5 years later, would still be in that basement, because what would have caused me to find the motivation otherwise? I don't think anything could, but pain is a great motivator, and living in your car only can last so long. But I'll tell you what, if they wouldn't have kicked me out, I don't think I'd be here today. And today I get to work from home. Fiance's coming in right now with the kid. And I get to, life's fantastic. I'm not tooting my horn. The only reason I have any of this life is because I was willing to take actions that other people were told to me, only because I was broken enough through getting pushed out the door by my parents. And so that's my story. Feel free, Derek, or to reach out to Derek and get my cell phone number from him after. And if anything I said offended you, that is completely on Derek, not on me. I take zero responsibility. He knows my story, so this is his fault.
I will take full responsibility for anything offensive that Bryce said tonight. I am more than willing to bear that burden. Bryce, hey man, I always ask the same question of all my speakers. So I want you to, if there's a family listening tonight, or if maybe somebody who's struggling with addiction is listening tonight, if you had to deliver like a 60-second message to somebody that's struggling, what would your message be?
The message, are you asking the 60-second message to the person who is struggling, or the family who's struggling, or the alcoholic who's struggling?
Either one, maybe both.
Okay, let's go off the top. Let's freestyle this. I'd say to the family, stay connected as possible. Don't try to do this on your own and think, oh, I've gone to a group. I kind of see what it's like, and now I need to figure out, because you do not have the power yourself, unless you're a unicorn of people to deal with it on your own. And the second thing is, don't look for the differences in the other parents' stories. If other parents are finding serenity in the way that they deal with their alcoholic or addict, but their kid is homeless and they are from a different class, if they just look different than you, don't look for the differences in these stories. Look for the similarities, okay? Because the solution is in these rooms and in these kind of groups. And if you're looking for an exit plan, you're going to find it no matter what. So just stay. That's it. Just stay.
Yeah.
Oh,
good, man.
And then 60 seconds for the person like myself. Call me.
Short and sweet, to the point, man.
Call me.
Hey, Bryce, honestly, man, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your willingness to share your story, to be vulnerable, not only like tonight and in this, but every time you do it, and for all the just helpful work that you do in the community to support recovery and support people's change. So Oklahoma and the Oklahoma Metro is lucky to have guys like you around, who are willing to put it out there to help other people. So
Appreciate that.
I appreciate that a lot. So for people that are watching, thanks for joining us. Like Bryce said, you could be doing 1,000 different things on a Monday night, including watching Yellowstone, but you weren't. You were here joining us. So we appreciate it. Please reach out to Parents Helping Parents. If you need anything, I did tag Bryce and put his number in the comment section of the Facebook video. So if you call him, he only accepts calls between 3 and 5 a.m.
I'll probably answer.
Just kidding. Hey, reach out. I think that's part of the message tonight is reach out if you need help and listen to the people that have been down that road, and be willing to do what they say to do, because it works, believe it or not. So Bryce, thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll catch you later, brother.
Yep. Live, laugh, love. See ya.